sometimes it's difficult to even know where to start or finish or begin when you're talking about um, what we call the law, international maritime admiralty law, the law of water, banking law, the Uniform Commercial Code, your status as a U.S. citizen. You have a U.S. citizen, your birth certificate, your exemption account, your Sustake trust, your making some notes here earlier. Your foreign situs trust, discharging debts, setting off debts. Maritime admiralty law is the law of vessels. So when you were born or you were birthed, and you were birthed probably, I mean, most people nowadays in a hospital, which comes from the Knights Hospitallers, which are a kind of a Roman Catholic secret society, but they're all involved in it anyway. And that's getting really deep into it. But for beginners or people that are just kind of discovering this information, um, you might run into people that'll tell you, hey, when you go in to get a loan at a bank, say for $50,000, what they do is you fill out the application and they type in $50,000 into your account and create the money, and boom, there you go. Well, see, that's disinformation, because they do that, but the bank that you go to is the intermediary that's on the hook for the money that is borrowed from the Federal Reserve, ultimately the International Monetary Fund. So you look at your birth certificate. I got mine right here, and if you go down to the county recorder's office and request a copy of it, which I recommend you do, get a bunch of copies of it. You'll notice that it's on American, they'll say down the bottom left, American Banknote Company. So it's on bond paper, basically. So what they do is they take your certificate of live birth, and one thing you should notice too when you look at this is when they list your the mother of the child, or when they have the mother sign, it'll say parent or other informant signature, and same with the father and the mother, and they're informing on you. They're informing, hey, I've got another chump here for you to take care of for the rest of your life. And then you'll notice too is that the mother, even though your parents are probably married, or maybe they weren't, but your father has the father's name, and usually the mother takes the father's name when they're married, right? But the mother, they only list her last name as her maiden name, right? I mean, check it out. My parents were married a long, like 6 or 7 years when I was born, but they don't list her name as my dad's last name. They list it as her maiden name. And why is that? Because you're considered to be a bastard child, like with an unmarried mother. And that's just one of the little tricks they play on here. And then they have the number at the top right hand, and sometimes it's in red, and that's going to coordinate with the bond number. These are pooled together in what's called a human growth funds, and you'll find that on Fidelity website. They're hard to find, but I know people that have looked them up before. But they're pulled into a pool of whatchamacallits in a separate fund growth programs called a human growth funds, and you can look that up on Fidelity.com. So anyway, what they do with this, once they have your birth certificate at the hospital, now immediately they're issuing Social Security number, so they have your parents' family SS5, which, I mean, wouldn't that be illegal because you're not even 18 yet, and they're signing a legal document for you? So that's one part of the fraud. But anyway, they take this and they securitize it. They open two trusts, a sus decay trust and a foreign situs trust, and one is for the public, one is for the private, and then they deposit this. That's why it's on banknote paper into an account, and then they securitize it and they issue Federal Reserve notes against it. So what you want to take out your Social Security card, and you got to have one that's after 1999 because that was the last 70-year international bankruptcy cycle. And they issue 10 bonds on it for anywhere from $600,000 to $1 million, depending on what, if you're what kind of stock you are. If you're preferred stock or mostly we're all just common stock. So the number on the back of your Social Security card, it's usually in red. It'll have denote a letter with A through L. There's 12 Federal Reserve banks in the United States, and each of them has a letter, A through L. So then you look at, I don't have any Federal Reserve notes on me. Okay, you look at a $1 Federal Reserve note. This has a G on it. So anybody with a G on the back of your Social Security card, your sus decay trust, your exemption account bond, is held in Chicago, the Chicago branch of the Federal Reserve Bank. And I noticed this too recently too, is that I think because they reissued the $2 bills in 2009. And you know what's funny too is you look at all the bills recently and you won't find any of them with a date after 2009, even the new $100 bills. So that tells you something, that they're not printing it. They're not printing them anymore, which leads me to believe that they've used up all our equity basically, and they're going to foreclose on us, and that's what Homeland Security is all about. But I'm not going to get into that right now. Anyway, the $2 bill will actually have the other letter. The other bills don't. But they have, because there's more of them out there, they will have like two separate numbers, and these are different bond accounts. But anyway, so what was my point of all this? Is that you cannot, these are Federal Reserve notes, and they're a promise to pay. Promise to pay what? Promise to pay. Promise to pay. See, we went into bankruptcy immediately, and I think in the early the late 1700s. And that's what the War of 1812 was about. This country was over in 1812 because they defaulted on the bank loans again because people are greedy. And the British came, I don't know everything there is to know about the War of 1812, but the British came down from Canada and burned down the White House, took control of all the documents, all the titles, all the bonds, and then they they put in their British Accredited Regency, which is the Bar Attorney Association. All bar attorneys are come out of the Temple Bar, out of the inner city of England or London, and they're here to administer for the bankruptcy. And that's what happens when you that's what all the statutes and codes are. There aren't any laws for U.S. citizens. A U.S. citizen is a fiction in law too. It's not real. So understand that. Anything in your name in all capital letters, that's called your straw man. Your stamius. Anyway, I forget the Latin term, but any bill that you'll get from any corporation goes to it's your name. It's your name in all capital letters. So it's not you. It's your corporation. And if you still have checks, people still use checks, and you look at the signature line, and you get a microscope and look at that, it'll say authorized rep, authorized rep, authorized rep. And then you look at the routing numbers on the bottom of the check, and those are routing numbers that go to one of the 12 Federal Reserve banks in the system. You're an authorized representative with an account at a Federal Reserve bank that you're authorized to write checks against. It doesn't go to your local Bank of America or anything like that. They're just there to handle the day-to-day bullshit to keep everybody in fantasy land. So you're an authorized representative and you have an account at Federal Reserve Bank and you're authorized, it's your account. You're authorized to do bankers acceptances, accepted for values. You just got to know how to operate in this new paradigm, this new system that you're just now finding out about. I've been doing it for about 10 years, so I have a lot of this information. If this is intriguing to you and you're interested in it, go to stopthepirates.blogspot.com right now and check out my information. This is Jeff. I'm out.